On l'a vu dans les journaux, on l'a vu sur la page couverture du Voir. Elle a une histoire, alors là, c'est le conte de fées parfait.
She hit the literary scene like a meteor. Quebec had never seen anything like her. Nelly Arcan was one of the biggest literary stars of the early aughts in Quebec. Her first novel, based on her experiences as a sex worker, was an instant bestseller. It was nominated for 2 major French prizes. She became an overnight media sensation.
Nelly Arcan, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
But the media could not look past her appearances. Blue eyes, blonde hair, and skin like a doll's. She was treated like a French Quebec Marilyn Monroe. It all started with her first novel, Putain, which translates to whore. As many young women in Quebec, Nelly Arcan is one of my all-time favorite authors. Born Isabelle Fortier, Arcan was originally from Lac-Mégantic, a small Quebec town with a population of under 6,000. She was born into a traditional working-class family that was very Catholic, and she had a rather calm and ordinary childhood. She was described as both sensitive and brilliant. A risky combo. Arcan was a child who cried too easily. She was hyper-observant of the world around her at a young age. A key ingredient for being a talented writer, but would also cause her a lot of pain. In her early 20s, she left for the big city of Montreal to study literature at UQAM. There she experienced what she called a debauchery of values. Montreal in the 90s would be unrecognizable to us today. The city was going through a recession. But its low rents and faltering economy created a louche bohemia, and its nightlife a beacon to artists everywhere. Arcan discovered a world she was not prepared for in nightclubs and bars. She compared our Sin City to Sodom and Gomorrah, 2 biblical cities destroyed by God for their wickedness. Her curious nature drew her into the city's perversions. And while looking for a part-time job to help with her studies, she answered an ad in the paper for an escort agency. She worked in the industry while she completed her studies, and Arcan drew upon her complex experiences as a sex worker to write her first novel. She submitted the manuscript to the prestigious Parisian publisher Le Seuil. Before even finishing the book, the editor was on a plane to Montreal to meet her. She was just 28 years old when Putain was published in 2001. The book takes the form of a long soliloquy telling the story of Cynthia, a high-class sex worker in Montreal. Cynthia is also an academic like Arcan. She reflects back on her family and childhood to try to understand what brought her to this point, only to realize that nothing predestined her to lust and depravity. In the book she wrote, "I made myself a whore to renounce everything that had defined me up to that point, to prove to others that one could simultaneously pursue studies, want to be a writer, hope for a future, and squander oneself here and there." Arcan describes her character as an actress in the desires of others. Sex with her clients is a form of theater, and Arcan does not limit this metaphor just to sex. There is a moment where she describes standing in a mirror, watching oneself cry, and seeing life itself as one big performance. I don't know about you, but that's a feeling I'm familiar with. Arcan often went back and forth on how much of her books were fact or fiction. And on some level, she might not have even been sure herself. Arcan exaggerated the truth, and she jokingly admitted to having a tendency to say nonsense. I honestly think this is true for most authors. My mother, who is an author, once convinced me that she was telekinetic when she was a kid, but it went away with age. Wonderful nonsense. It is hard to talk about Nelly Arcan without mentioning her striking appearance. Her beauty was practically a curse. Her body was objectified relentlessly by the media and the public. A pivotal event in Arcan's life is hard to revisit. It makes us cringe and feel disturbed while watching it. Nearly everyone in French Quebec is familiar with Nelly Arcan's infamous interview on the wildly popular talk show Tout le monde en parle. Mesdames et messieurs, the moment she starts to speak, we are met with a camera pan starting at her wrist, going up her neck showing her breasts, and ending on her face. They proceeded to humiliate her with their line of questioning. One panelist said he was distracted by her low-cut dress and was having a hard time focusing on her face. And let's be clear, she was wearing a standard black cocktail dress. She later described going on the show as walking into a lion's den. Instances like this filled her with crippling anxieties about her appearance, and she has been described as having low self-esteem. But I think this minimalizes her. There was also an intoxicating confidence about her as well. Arcan was full of contradictions. She simultaneously pandered to the male gaze while trying to tear it down. She criticized plastic surgery while undergoing it herself. She was accused of denouncing beauty standards, yet at the same time upholding them. I see Arcan as the product of a broken society. Her role was to criticize these structures that made her feel as though she needed to be the most beautiful and unique woman in every room. She grew up watching The Smurfs, which was immensely popular in the 80s. She wanted to be the Smurfette, the one woman that all the men fought over. Arcan did not want us to fixate on her, however. She chose a pen name to distance herself from her characters. She wanted the work to speak for itself. Her writing style is extremely recognizable, a stream of consciousness that you must give into and allow yourself to be washed away with it. Relentless like water, her sentences are long, offering no breaks to the reader. It can be consumed in one sitting. It is as if your best friend from childhood is whispering in your ear. You must listen quickly before she changes her mind and takes it back. Just like Arcan, her writing contained multitudes. Things could be both beautiful and grotesque. Her character describes her oily teenage skin fogging up every window she leans on, becoming clouds she can disappear into. She writes of ugliness competitions had in childhood, where you could pull and contort your face until you could see black holes behind your eyes. Arcan captures the freedom of being a child and pinpoints the exact moment we lose that freedom, the moment we are tall enough to see ourselves in the bathroom mirror. She compares her character's body to a Russian doll, decreasing in size under each layer. This was a metaphor for anorexia. In one striking passage about death, she writes that children instinctively try to swallow anything they can grab. Therefore, even at the beginning of our lives, we are unsure we want to live. This was the beauty behind her severe topics. On the surface, her work may seem nihilistic, but when you actually read Arcan's work, there is also beautiful insights into the human condition. Let's look past the sex worker narrative that the media loves so much, and look at the magic she brought to the struggles of everyday life. Nelly Arcan chose to die in September of 2009 at only 36 years old. True, it has become even more difficult to separate Arcan from her work after her death. A layer of foreboding comes over us as we read her work, especially when she writes about mental health and suicide. She once said in an interview that she wrote Putain to say, "You did not understand me because you didn't actually know me." And when asked if this was about her clients, she said it was about everyone. So even though I hope you learned something about Nelly Arcan today, just know we never really knew her. And I think she wanted it that way. For CBC, the Creator Network, I'm Arizona O'Neill.